see. Based on all of that, if someone says the Patriots are making the playoffs off the strength of their top 5 tight end, Jonnu Smith, who is the player that'll make the biggest impact with his new team, you hit the jackpot. My name is MJ Acosta. Thanks for joining us today. We'll get to all that and more later in the show, but we're going to start with Tom Brady, who, of course, appears in the Buccaneers YouTube channel show In the Current. It's a behind-the-scenes look at the Super Bowl 55 champions. It drops Wednesdays at 8 Eastern. Now, the first of 6 episodes, History Begins, that's available to watch right now. Here's a sneak peek for you. Brady catching up with Peyton Manning before the Bucs' Week 3 matchup in Denver.
What's up, big guy? How you doing? How you doing? Nice to see you, man. Good to see you. What's up, guys?
What's up, y'all?
How you guys doing?
So, it's Marshall and Mosley. You remember that?
Of course. It's been a while.
Yeah.
How you doing? Is that DT jersey? Or Emmanuel? Which one? I don't remember.
DT.
I'm sure you haven't heard of.
Good call.
I love that guy, too. Reese, isn't it?
We still have our suite. Instead of having 20, we can have 10. We can have 10. It's pretty tough. I just, I think if we got tested and all that. How's Ziegler doing? Good. He's homeschooling his kids all summer. Let's just say they're not going to Ivy League school. Man, they're teaching you common denominator. Good to have an right there. I don't know, that's what I like the way he plays.
So in 2020, the Bucs offense had the best season in their franchise history. They ranked first in points per game, offensive touchdowns per game, pass touchdowns, I mean, all the things, as you can see right here. Let's welcome in James Jones, D'Angelo Hall, and James Palmer. Hello, fellas. All right, this feels like a pretty good spot, having said all of that, to talk about a little room for improvement. Now, we know that the Buccaneers brought everyone in the kitchen sink back to the field. But what details now does Tampa have to focus on to return to the Super Bowl, James Palmer?
Well, MJ, Tom Brady said it about 2 weeks ago. He said one of the hardest things about repeating is the things that worked last year will not work again the following year, and teams will play you differently. You have to make adjustments. And one spot that they're growing is Brady's chemistry with all of these pass catchers that are returning. Remember, the throwing sessions they had a year ago were just trying to get Tom Brady up to speed and introduce himself to all these guys. Now, fast forward to this year, after a season together in which they won the Super Bowl, Brady told me those throwing sessions are all about nonverbal communication. How do you go about maybe a tap of the helmet or a head nod and way you change routes and make some of these option routes one thing or another? And a guy to keep your eye on is Chris Godwin. He's played just as many snaps, actually exactly, in the slot as he has outside. Remember what Brady has done with guys in the slot like Julian Edelman, Wes Welker over the years, when he has that chemistry and ability to change some things up. The same thing's happening in the red zone with Mike Evans, who has a big body receiver. They're able to do some different things down there, adjustments at the line. That's everything they're doing this offseason. And James, you know what it's like to play with a quarterback that's one of the greatest to ever do it. And when that chemistry builds, the advantages that you get.
You're absolutely right, and that is going to be a big adjustment for them, and it's going to be much better for them in year 2. Playing with Aaron Rodgers, playing with Brett Favre, but playing with Aaron for the most of my career, he could look at me twice. And I can know exactly what he wants me to do. He could tap his helmet on the inside, letting me know the defender is inside leverage. I know exactly what he wants to do. And that is the kind of jump that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense and receivers are going to take. You've sat in meetings all year last year saying, hey, listen, if we get this situation next time, we're going to try to do this. If we get this situation next time, we're going to try to do this. And you go through the whole season, your first year, learning about the guy, learning about your quarterback, and finally putting it together. And when year 2 comes and you line up and you're like, ooh, this is the situation that we talked about week 15 last year. Oh, he looked at me twice. I know exactly what I'm doing. So you're going to see this offense and these receivers, even though you've seen all them ones up there, they was first and everything, you're going to see them take the next step and start to have a lot more explosive plays strictly off the chemistry Tom Brady and those receivers have. And with saying all that, man, that's scary, and it's going to be tough to stop them boys from going back.
Yeah, JJ, you talked about that chemistry. You as well, James. But
on top of that, too, with that chemistry, it's that trust factor, right? How many times did we see Tom Brady eyeing Mike Evans, and it looked like they just didn't trust each other? So I can't wait for those guys to keep building on that trust as well as that chemistry. But for me, on the defensive side of the football, I want to see these guys continue to own their identity. You know, it was times through the course of that season where you saw Todd Bowles kind of sit back a little bit, and that's never been his style. That's never been his defensive style. When they got rolling in the playoffs, they were sending constant pressure. It wasn't just the front four at times. You know, Devin White was able to come in there. He finished the season with, I think, 9.5 sacks as a middle linebacker. So that tells you they were sending a lot of pressure with him coming in there blitzing. So, you know, with that young secondary and all those guys, Carlton Davis, Antoine Whitfield, we know they're going to continue to gel and they're going to continue to build on their chemistry as well. But you can't lose your identity, what got you there, what got you that ring, and that's the dominating defense that gets after the quarterback. So I'm looking forward to watching Tampa continue to hunt, man. When you can bring all 22 starters back, MJ, like you mentioned, kind of makes your job a little bit easier.
Listen, you guys talk about that trust, nonverbal communication. It's like art imitating life, right? The parallels between life and football. You got to have that trust out on the field. But it's like when I look at my husband at a party or gathering, I just have to look at him. He knows I'm ready to go. Same thing with QBs and the guys out there. Right? Am I wrong? I'm not. I knew it.
We know that look.
I knew it. All right. Meantime, the other team from the Super Bowl 55, they're working on their 2021 domination potentially. The QB specifically, Patrick Mahomes getting work in with fellow Lone Star State QB and current Colt Sam Ehlinger. Look at that. All right, I get it. Everybody out there just trying to get right in this offseason. So, guys, as we continue this conversation about room for improvement and we head to the Chiefs, here is what is off the table in this conversation before we get into it. No mention of keeping Mahomes healthy or of the offensive line in KC. So now that that's off the table, beyond those aspects, what does Kansas City need to focus on to reach their third consecutive Super Bowl? Palmer, start us off again, please.
Well, MJ, talking to people in Kansas City, it's finding a third pass catcher after Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. You saw what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to do in that Super Bowl. Now, that's tough. You need to have the horses out there to be able to stop those two guys. But at the same time, who steps up? Sammy Watkins is no longer with the team, and you didn't get Juju Smith-Schuster. What do you do as a third option? They would like McCole Hardman in his third NFL season to step into that. He had 41 catches for 560 yards and 4 touchdowns a season ago. But talking to some people, it might be a variety of things. Maybe more 2 tight end sets than they've ever used since Patrick Mahomes became the starter there. They drafted Noah Gray, a tight end with a similar skill set to Travis Kelce that they could put on the field potentially at the same time, and also throwing the football to those guys out of the backfield. Mahomes believes they're really good route runners, specifically Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They can catch the football afterwards and make some plays in space. What Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes did after the Super Bowl was look at the offense and say, we need to make more plays in the short, intermediate passing game, JJ. So where can we go with the football and other aspects when we know teams are taking away the deep shot of Tyreek Hill? I know they've tried a lot of things this offseason, and they're throwing a lot of things against the wall to see what sticks.
James, as much as I want to throw this ball all over the yard, as much as I want a number 3 receiver to emerge, for me, they have to run the football. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire back there. Yes, you talked about you upgraded the offensive line. When they had the most success in the Super Bowl, they came out in the second half and ran the football, and this young fella has some explosive runs. Get the ball in his hands, and you make it easier on the pass game. I remember when we got Eddie Lacy in Green Bay, and coach was like, we are going to run this football. And we're like, do you see all the weapons we have? Do you see Aaron Rodgers is the best player on the planet? But when Eddie Lacy started toting the rock, we started looking out there like, oh, my goodness, we ain't got cover 2. It's man-to-man coverage. We're able to get loose a little bit and make some plays. You got to let this young fella run the ball, get some man-to-man coverage for Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Mecole Hardman, and this offense will even go to the next level. But start with the running game and don't sit back there and try to have Patrick Mahomes throw this thing 45 times a game and think that you're going to be this explosive offense that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of pressure is going to be on that secondary, right? When you play for a team that offense scores so many points, scores so fast, defensively and being a secondary player, you're going to always have the opposing team playing from behind, throwing the football all the time. I was able to spend a little time with Tyrann Mathieu down at Jackson State at Deion Sanders' event, and I just was picking his brain about that young secondary, and he loves L'Jarius Sneed and Travarius Ward and those young guys, and he thinks they have an opportunity to really be an explosive team back there. And I think they're going to get their fair share of opportunities. Think about a young guy like Mike Hughes, who comes over from Minnesota, who just couldn't quite figure it out. Tyron thinks that this guy could be maybe the answer at that nickel position, the guy who can come in there and make some plays for him. Juan Thorhill has been an extreme playmaker for that Chiefs secondary, and so getting him back into the fold and back healthy. Daniel Sorensen. So I'm looking forward to watching this Chiefs secondary. It's going to be some pressure on them, but I think those guys are up for the task.
No doubt, D-Hall, and I know we focus so much on Mahomes and the offense with good reason, right? But that defense, they ranked top 10 in points allowed last season. So still room for growth there, but they do have the talent and certainly have the hunger to go out there and do their part to get the ball back to that amazing offense. After Raiders defensive end Carl Nassib announced he's openly gay, Raiders owner Mark Davis released this statement via Ed Greeny of the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Says, quote, "These are personal decisions. It's 2021 and he's a Raider. If he's happy, I'm happy. It takes courage. I thought we got to the point where he wasn't a story. It doesn't change my opinion of him as a man or as a Raider." Right, Raiders great Bo Jackson tweeting today, proud of Carl Nassib on coming out yesterday. The Raider Nation, the whole country, and I stand with you. More on Carl Nassib and what the NFL community is doing on behalf of the LGBTQ+ community later on in the show. Coming up, we talked about the Bucs and Chiefs getting back to the Super Bowl. Let's dial it down a notch, though. Some teams, they're just hoping to make the playoffs. James and D-Hall are letting you know who's postseason bound. Plus, class is currently in session at Tight End University, and Professor JJ is taking us to
play action fake. Brady looking, throws toward the end zone. Caught ball, touchdown, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Rob Gronkowski's got 2 today. Bucs win the Super Bowl 55.
All right, so here's a look at the tight ends with the most receiving touchdowns going back to 2015. Travis Kelce at the top there with 43, but Rob Gronkowski right behind him with 32, despite having missed 30 games since 2015. We have Jimmy Graham, Eric Ebron, and Kyle Rudolph all behind him in that order with 31 receiving touchdowns apiece. This leads us to Top 5 Tuesday, and James Jones is leading the way here with his top 5 tight ends for 2021. Drop the countdown, JJ. Who's at number 5?
I got you. Number 5 is TJ Hockenson, Detroit. Listen, not a lot of people get a chance to see this young fella play because he's in Detroit. They don't get a lot of primetime games, so you're not able to see how good this young fella is. He can absolutely play. Anytime you throw the football up to him, he's able to go up and make the plays. He's an excellent route runner. He's quick off the line of scrimmage, explosive off the line of scrimmage. This is an excellent player, and a lot of people need to know more about this young fella right here. And then number 4. Number 4 is Mark Andrews, the second best player on the Baltimore Ravens offense. We all see it. They got plenty of primetime games, and we see this guy go get the football one hand, two hand, 2 people on him, 3 people on him, going up, making the tough catches. He does it all. He's in there in the run game. We know Baltimore loves to run the football as well. This dude is dynamic. He probably could have been even higher on this list, but the guys in front of him, it was tough to make that move. Number 3 is George Kittle. We know he had the injury bug last year, but what can't he do? You get the ball in his hands. He is not an easy tackle. He's breaking the first tackle every single time. We know what he means to the 49ers in the run game. Explosive player down the football field. He can do it all, man. These dudes up here at the top of this list can absolutely do it all, and George Kittle is one of them guys. And then Darren Waller from the Las Vegas Raiders. He is a tight end in a wide receiver body. Everybody says, does he run 4.3? Does he run 4.4? We don't know. He just running by everybody, making big-time plays. Derek Carr's favorite target. Put it where you want to put it. But he's moving him around, put him on the outside, the inside, and this dude is absolutely dynamic. And then number 1, numero uno, is Travis Kelce. Get back. Don't come up and press me because I'm Devontae Adams-like off the line of scrimmage, off the press. Do not come up and press me. Ball in my hands. I'm getting yacked. You can put me on the outside. You can put me on the inside. You can put me in the backfield. It does not matter. Time after time after time after time, this dude is making the play all over in the middle of the field. He is the #1 tight end. Those is my top 5. D-Hall, I know you agree with every last one of these boys on my list.
Anyone you'd add, D-Hall?
1, 2, and 3 would have been a 1A, 1A, 1A. Because all 3 of them dudes, your top 3, they go get it now.
Wait a minute. So no Gronk whatsoever, even like a 5A, 6, JJ?
Well, you know, you got to be the best tight end on your team, MJ, to be able to make it up here on this list. I do not think Gronkowski, at the time he is in his career right now, is better than a healthy O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard is going to come out this year and absolutely dominate. So, no, I cannot put Gronk on this list knowing that you are not the best tight end on your team. Are you a legendary tight end? Hall of Famer tight end? Absolutely. But right now,
You know, and the list, to be fair, was top 5 going into a gold jacket, and, well, the rest of us don't. Right, this offseason has seen a lot of player movement throughout the NFL. We're all getting used to some old faces in new places, but which one is set to excel most in their new home? Well, Mike Garafolo, Jane Slater, D'Angelo Hall, and Cynthia Freeland got together earlier to discuss.
Here for TAOT, Jane is here, D Hall is here, C Frun is here, still working on her nickname. We're going to get it to you shortly, I promise you. Lots of new faces in new places in the NFL with all the player movement this offseason. So I want to talk with you guys about who we expect to excel with their new team. I'm going to start with D'Angelo Hall here. D Hall, plenty to choose from. Give me the player that's really going to shine in a new uniform.
And let me throw this disclaimer out, because by shine, I don't necessarily mean this guy's going to go out and just dominate every single body he goes against. But I think his football team will, and he will be a big part of that reason. So I'm going with Julio Jones, the new member of the Tennessee Titans. And, you know, when I think about the way Tennessee plays football, they want to be smash mouth. They want to try to get those numbers and pound Derrick Henry at you, then take those shots downfield with A.J. Brown. Man, when you put A.J. Brown's big brother on the other side of him, Julio Jones, A.J. Brown has been very vocal about loving the way Julio Jones plays the game, trying to model his game after it. You put that guy on the outside, oh my goodness. I mean, I just don't know how opposing defensive coordinators are going to go into game planning for 2 #1 receivers on the outside and a dog in the backfield that wants the ball 30 times a game. A lot of teams want to take that ball out of the quarterback hands by allowing that running back to run. Don't let those big plays go down the football field. It's going to be interesting to see what opposing defenses pick their poison with. Will it be continuously trying to bang your head and tackle Derrick Henry, or deal with those 2 giants on the outside and A.J. Brown and Julio Jones? You know, I think the Tennessee Titans got a whole lot better, and teams are going to be trying to scheme them to the cows come home.
I mean, John Robinson has been doing the Lord's work this offseason for that team. They're one of my favorite teams to cover. They've got a great roster. If you want to talk about one of the more impactful players that they acquired in recent years, is Ryan Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill, I feel like, is a guy that's been overlooked because it's one of those mid-sized markets. But they've been doing big things there. I just wonder if they should have done bigger things on defense. Now, you could argue they went out and got Bud Dupree, and that was a big move for them. But this is an offense that I think would have been just fine with King Henry. It's an offense fit for a king, and I think they were doing just fine with A.J. Brown. We'll see if they have too many mouths to feed as a result of Julio Jones getting added to this team. Now, D'Angelo, I want to jump off what you said earlier. Matthew Stafford and the Rams. I think that was a big addition by Les Snead and, of course, Sean McVay, going out and getting a guy that can not only read but manipulate coverages. I think that's big. And if you kind of listen to McVay read between the lines, That's what he was looking for with this offense. And then they're bringing back their wide receiver duo, their tackling duo, their starting tight end. All of them have been to the Super Bowl with McVay, and they've been to 6 playoff games. Now you've got a seasoned vet in here who seems to speak the same language as your little savant and offensive guru there, Sean McVay. I think that this is going to be huge for them. So that might ask you, again, why I didn't pick them to be the team to beat in the NFC. We'll see. Maybe I am now reevaluating it as I make that call, because, of course, I picked the Cowboys. But I do think that they're going to be a team to watch because, as Cynthia pointed out, they've got the defense. They're returning all these players on offense, and now you plug and play with Matthew Stafford. Let's see how creative and fun this team can be.
No, listen, at least from a fantasy standpoint, see, what's great about this chat is it started with D'Angelo saying, no, I'm going to throw the disclaimer. We're not talking fantasy points and yards here. We're talking about what coaches like to call hidden yards with Julio Jones's impact with the Tennessee Titans. D'Angelo says, no fantasy. This is reality. Jane, I think Matthew Stafford's production with the Detroit Lions speaks for itself, and I think it's going to continue, if not ascend, with the Los Angeles Rams. I think you are 100% on the mark with that one. Cynthia, you are up now.
Okay, well, as a Detroit fan, I maybe not a Detroit fan anymore because of the Stafford departure. I love that. But someone who left the Rams, John Johnson, he's a huge ad for the Cleveland Browns. And I'm not just trying to kiss up to D. Hall here, picking a defensive back, but ultimately, when I look to see what was missing from this team that got a ton better this season, this past season, and this offseason, it was the defense. It was really stopping those deep threats. And John Johnson was a key in this Rams defense that, because Jalen Ramsey's such a big name and, of course, Aaron Donald up front, John Johnson has a big impact. He's going to be missed. And the Cleveland Browns, they got a good one. So this is going to be a situation where they could take them up over the edge, maybe winning deeper into January, maybe winning that division. It's really up for grabs between them and the Ravens, and great offseason moves like John Johnson are the reason why they could have just kind of leapfrogged the Ravens.
One of the things the Browns wanted to do with their secondary was get versatility, get guys that can do a little bit of everything, and John Johnson can do a little bit of everything. That was a big deal at $33 million plus over 3 years. Might actually wind up being a bargain because the safety number is going to continue to climb, and they got great value. So I'm on board with Cynthia's pick as well. As for me, I'm looking at Ryan Fitzpatrick in the NFCs. Now, I know that Ron Rivera is not declaring a starting quarterback yet. Because Guess what? I'm winking. I know what's going on. It's going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick because last year they wanted to have an open quarterback competition, and they didn't get a chance to have an open quarterback competition. So they're trying to make up for lost time in that department, but it's going to wind up being Ryan Fitzpatrick. And really, Taylor Heineke, when he showed up last year, it was after Alex Smith had come on, and really the ball started to come out and go where it needed to go. With Dwayne Haskins, it didn't always come out that way. They would design plays, and it would be open, and he would just inexplicably look elsewhere after they talked all week long about where they wanted the football to go. Well, Alex Smith started to put it in the right place, and so did Taylor Heineke. You know that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to do that as well for this Washington football team offense. I think that's going to be a big key. We're finally going to see what Scott Turner and that offensive coaching staff wants to do from a scheme standpoint and wants to do consistently with the same quarterback under center, D'Angelo.
Yeah, Jeezy, that's what's going to be interesting because Ryan Fitzpatrick, you watch his body of work over the course of his career, and he'll give you just enough that has you, have you sitting there thinking that you can win a Super Bowl, and then he shows you who he really is, and that's not the guy that you want out there every single snap. So if he can rein some of that in, as you mentioned, if Scott Turner can kind of push the ball down the football field when they need to, they have a lot of weapons on this offense. And so we know what this defense can do. I was at a minicamp practice a couple days ago, and that defense of the Washington football team was biting. They literally picked off, I think, Ryan Fitzpatrick a couple times, and I was scratching my head like, that's not the guy we want to see. So, geez, I'm going to be very, very locked in tune to what your guy has going on in Ryan Fitzpatrick. You know that's my team, so I can't wait. I hope he does have all the success you claim, because if he does, we might be headed to the Super Bowl, baby.
He'll be the most fun to cover in the NFC East.
Yeah, D'Angelo Hall. We're gonna end on him because he's a guy who knows what it's like to be a new face in a new place. He kind of bounced around in his career, but you know what? All the bouncing around It led to NFL Network. He's here with us now. D'Angelo, thank you. Jane, thank you. Cynthia, thank you as well.
All right, there's no question that with Aaron Rodgers, your team is going to